Hi again, and today's video is going to be taking quite a long look at MapInfo, and what we're going to look at here is how to geocode UK postcodes. So imagine you have a list of, for example, staff members and their home postcodes, and you want to map them against a database which is freely available. So let's first of all have a look and see where we can get this database from. So OS Open Data is the source. The easiest way of getting there is just simply to Google OS Open Data, and the thing that you're looking for on this page is actually called Code Point. So if you scroll all the way down, it's this one here, Code Point, and this actually gives you the geographic location for every single postcode in Great Britain. You have to click on here for download and then scroll to the bottom and continue. There's a form for you to fill in with your details, and the only really important detail to fill in is your email address. Most of the other details are optional, and I would advise perhaps not to fill them in unless you want to get junk mail, etc. Okay, once you've done that, you will actually get sent an email, and that email will have a link for you to download the files. Now the files, once you've downloaded them, they will actually come through in this format here. So there will be a zip file which you need to then extract. So once you've extracted it, and it takes a few seconds to extract, let's have a look inside the folder to see what's actually there. So inside the folder there are two files, one called doc, which is documents, and this explains how the list works. Key one there is the column headers. So let's have a quick look at that. Postcode, positional, and it's a quality indicator of the eastings and northings that they give you. And then you've got a variety of different code settings here. So country, NHS, admin district, and ward codes. The only three that we're interested in is that column A there, which contains the postcode, column C, or the third column, and column D, or the fourth column. And we're making a note of the fact that these are eastings and northings, which imply in our case that these are UK formats and not latitude and longitude. Okay, the other thing we have in here is the data itself. Now in the data there's a folder called CSV. This contains all of the individual CSV files for all of the individual postcode areas. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at how we can stitch all of these together. So in order to do that, let's just go back to our data and take that CSV file, and we're going to copy it, and we're simply going to copy it into the root of our C drive. Now in this instance my C drive is correctly that one. I'm using two boots on this machine, and so if I just simply paste it in here, you'll notice that now in my root for the C drive I've now got that CSV file. Now the reason we're doing that is we're now going to use a bit of code here, and the particular bit of code that we're going to use is just a little bit of command line code. So I'm going to type in command prompt. I'm just going back to the root, and I'm going to say copy, and I want to copy from CSV, and I want to copy everything which is in the CSV which has the extension CSV, and I want to copy it to my C drive, and let's put it back in that CSV folder, and we'll call this one master.csv. Now what it's doing is it's reading every single one of those CSV files and it's writing them into a single file called master. So let's have a look and see how that worked. So we go into there, it's in our C drive, so if we go into the C drive itself, back into that CSV folder, we scroll down to M, and in there is a master file now. Now what you can't do is open this in Excel because it contains about 1.5 million rows, which is far more than Excel can handle at a time. So what we're going to do is we're going to open another file in Excel, but this happens to be our staff postcodes. So this is the one that we want to adjust. Now it has to match the format of that other file. Now what I can do with the other file is open it as a text file. Now if I simply open it in a text editor, text editors can handle much bigger files than Excel. So if I say open with and just open it with Notepad, you'll see that without any problem it will open the 1.5 million rows. Now the thing that we need to look at is here, and it's the actual format that the postcodes are in. They're in what Post Office refer to as the 7-digit postcode format. Now what that means is that you have the first 4 and then you have the second 3. Where you have in the first 4 you have only 3 digits, so for example it were AB1 instead of AB10, that will then be followed by a space, and AB1 space will become the first 4. If there are 3 digits, there will be a space. If there are 4, there will not be a space. Now what this doesn't match is what we probably have within our staff postcodes. So let's look at these exercise staff postcodes, and hey presto, guess what we have here? We have A1 190, and down here we have A19, but when we get down to some of these we have AB15 space 4AY. So we're going to have some errors here because of the way that the postcodes have been put in, and some of the other postcodes are simply going to come up with errors because they've been put in incorrectly. We're going to ignore the ones that have come in incorrectly. They're not going to be statistically relevant. What we do want to do though is we want to sort these postcodes out so they're actually showing in the same format as our postcode database, because otherwise we can't use our postcode database as a reference for these files. So let's have a look and see how we can make that work. What we need to do is we're going to say good postcode, and I'm just going to type in a very simple formula here. It's just going to ask the question, first of all, what's the length of the string? So I'm just going to say equals length of that there. Now it says 5. Now that one says 5. I'm just going to drag it down a few more. You'll see that some of these are saying 7, some are saying 8. Now the ones that say 8 are saying 8 because they contain the first 4 and an extra space. Now this is by far the commonest mistake. The ones that say 5 are just clearly incorrect, and the ones that might say 9 or 10 will equally be incorrect. So we're just going to look at the two options. Either it's going to say 7, which will be right, or it's going to say 8, which has an extra space in it. So all we're going to do is we're going to say if the length is 7, so equals if the length equals 7, then we're going to assume it's good. So we're going to say we want it to then equal whatever is already in that cell. If it doesn't equal 7, what we want to do is we want to take the left 4, so whatever's in there, we're going to take the left 4 and then join that together, so an ampersand with the right 3. So what that would do in effect is take out the space. Now in some of these it's going to give us garbage because that's an incorrect postcode. We're not going to worry about that. What we're going to look at is whether we're getting good postcodes here, and for all of these other examples, apart from the one that I said before was garbage, it's going to work fine. So now I can take that and simply fill down everywhere. I'm now going to save this again, and I'm going to save it again as a CSV, so that's fine. Okay, so this one now contains good postcodes. Okay, what are we now going to do? Well, first of all, we're going to open up MapInfo. And within MapInfo, we're going to open that first CSV file, which is our master file. So let's go and have a look for it. It was in our root. So it was in the C drive, and it's in CSV, and it's called master. So it's that one there. And what you have to be careful of here is where it says automatic, what that will do is if there is geographic information, it will open it in a map. If there isn't, it will open it in a browser. Now I'm just going to say open it in no view, because I don't need to actually see that on the screen. There we go, open. Do I want my first line for column titles? No, I don't, because I haven't used the column titles in there. So I just click OK. Now this will be considerably faster than opening it in any of those views. It will only open in the browser view because it doesn't have the geographic data on it yet. That's what we're going to do next. So it can take up to a minute to actually do this because, like I say, it is a fairly large file. By comparison, you notice that text editor opened it within a couple of seconds. Much faster just opening in a text editor. Okay, whilst we're waiting for that to open, what we need to remember is that in column 1, that contains the postcode. Column 3 is the accuracy indicator, so we're not going to worry about that. Column 3 and column 4 are the ones that contain the eastings and the northings. So we're going to use them to create points for this file. And as soon as it does actually come up with it, it's taking longer than it usually does, but as soon as it does actually come up with it, there we go. What we're going to do is we're going to go to spatial and we're going to create points for that file. So we're going to create points for this table, which is called master, and what we're not going to do is use longitude and latitude. We are going to go into projection and we're going to set this to British coordinate systems and just choose any one of them, and we're going to say that our coordinates, our x and y, come from column 3 and column 4. Click OK. This is now creating points for those 1.5 million entries, and it does run through relatively fast. It's already done about 250,000, so it's not going to take as long as it did to just open that file in the first instance. Now if I explain why it takes so long to open that file in the first instance, the reason is because that was a CSV file, and MapInfo actually has to create another file with a copy of all the information, which is the tab file, when it opens the CSV file. So it's actually a slower way of doing it. Much better once you've done this to actually save it as a tab file, because then you've got all the information in one file rather than in two files. Okay, so we're nearly there. It's nearly done all the points. 1.4 million, and we've only got a total of about 1.6 million. And a couple more seconds, and there we go. Okay, so that's now done. It's created all the points, and what I could now do is show these all on a map. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let you believe that they are there for now. And the reason I'm not going to do that is we don't want to display on our screen 1.6 million points. We're going to use this as a reference. So I'm now going to open another table, and this is going to be the CSV file again, and this particular CSV file is going to be the one, let me just find it first of all. It's this one here, the exercise staff locations. Now in this one we do have our headers in the first column, and let's have a look at them. So this is going to open up as a in the same view that we opened the last one. So because if I just go there again, because I'd set it to no view on the last one, it remembers that setting. So that is also opened, but it's opened in no view. What I could now do is go to table and new browser, and let's see a browser for those exercise staff locations. Now what we're going to do is we're going to match this good PC with column 1 from our master, and in that sense what we're going to do is geocode this one here. We don't have the x and y coordinates in here, and that's why we've got to do it. So let's say geocode. We want to geocode exercise staff locations using the column and its good PC. We must use the good PC because that's the one that has the correct format that matches the one from master column 1. We are going to match it with we're going to put a symbol on there, and we are also going to do automatic, which means it skips over the errors and at the end it will tell us how many it's missed. Let's click OK. This database has about 32,000 postcodes in it, so we'll see at the end how many it's done and how many it hasn't done. The first thing it's doing here is it's actually indexing our reference file, so it's not actually doing the geocoding just yet. Geocoding 32,000 postcodes from 1.6 million can take a considerable length of time. So you might want to, depending on the speed of your machine, you might actually want to just leave this, let it run overnight, go away, do something else. You may want to choose a smaller sample rather than the whole country for referencing your database. This 32,000 that we've got are actually spread over most of England, with a few outside of England as well. So actually we want to match it against the whole database. But what we would do is we would just actually let this run and go away and do something else. Do make sure you're running on a reasonably fast machine, and make sure that if you're running it on a laptop, do have it plugged in, because otherwise your battery will go flat. So you see it's not actually running particularly fast, and if I've got 32,000 to do, and it takes, let's say, 20 seconds to do a couple of hundred, that's going to take a while. So let's take a break here, and we'll come back when it's done. Okay, so by the magic of YouTube, we're back here again. Now this is actually 48 hours later. The geocoding for that 32,000 actually took nearly 36 hours on this computer. Now we do actually have a much faster computer that we use for doing this, and we offer geocoding for clients. So if you don't want to wait, you can send us the file and we can code it for you. We'll give you a quote for what it is. There is a minimum fee just to cover our time in setting it up. Then it runs at about 2p per postcode, so 2 pence per postcode. So for every 100, it's about £2. Okay, as you can see here, we've got 27, just under 28,000 of those 32.5 were coded. Now the other 4,500 we could now run through the geocode again using the same settings, but this time run it using interactive. Now what it will do this time is it will stop every time it reaches one of those errors. I'm clearly not going to do that for 4,500 items. I'm going to decide in this instance that those 4,500 are ones that I'm not, they're not relevant, they're not statistically relevant to the output that I'm doing here. These are exercise postcodes, they're deliberately wrong, and so that's why we have some of them as errors. The ones that are too long will fall outside of our criteria, and the ones that are too short will also fall outside our criteria. So for example, some of them might be 6s. There's one straight away that will fall outside the criteria. They will not find that as a postcode. Okay, what can we do with these now? Well, we've got our staff postcodes, so we can now show a map of our staff postcodes, and there they all are. So quite simply we can zoom out and we'll be able to see these, and you can roughly see the outline of, well, England anyway. Okay, underneath there, just to make it slightly easier, we could put a base map underneath, put Bing Roads underneath, just to make it more obvious the regions that we're talking about, the areas we're talking about. In a nutshell, this has been a video on how to geocode. Two different ways we can actually get the information into our map. We can either create points if we have X and Y, or we can geocode if we have another file that has the X and Y on it. So this video, it's been quite a long video, but it has shown you how to get the free database from OS Open Data in the first instance. Once you have that database, how to stitch it together to give you a single file with all of the postcodes within it. You then take that file itself and you create points from it to give you the geographic location of all of those postcode points. What we then need to do is take our data source, so in this instance the staff database, and we need to sort the postcodes so that they actually give us a good postcode. Now what I've done is I've done that in Excel, because it's easier to do that in Excel, and that then gives us what we call a 7-digit postcode that we can then reference across to our postcode database, our master database. Once we've done the geocoding, which can take some time, what we're then able to do is actually show all of our staff locations on a base map. We could then obviously do all the analysis we want, like set transport hubs. So we could look for the train stations and find out what the distance is between the train stations and people, to find out how many of our staff actually fall outside of, for example, a kilometre away from a train station. Okay, that's all I've got for you today. I hope it's been useful, and once more, thank you for listening.